Thank you for joining me on today's podcast. I want to talk a little bit about leadership and what that means. Even while I was mayor, one of the things I've always stated was that I was going to be very much concerned when I vote on something was to consider our environment, our quality of life, and our economy. That was the three-pronged test to me. If what we were voting on, if it was a new business coming to town or a new company, I wanted to see how they contributed to our environment, our quality of life, and how they're going to impact the economy. And when I talk about our quality of life is how are they relational with our community? How do they tie in? How do they fit? So that to me is a very important piece, not only for me, but for the community as a whole. And thankfully, we had a city manager during that time, R.A.R.E, who really believed in that same concept. He is very much concerned how people fit in and how organizations and companies tied in with our community. But I think there's an important piece that we miss often, and that is the 4 leadership points that I want to express today. And I'll express each point. And I think there are 4 rare things that leaders often forget, and they need to think about with frequency. So let's think of this like an acronym, the word R.A.R.E, R-A-R-E. The first one is being responsible. It's important for me to be responsible for the things that have been charged for me to do or that I take ownership in. In the same token, it's important that I hold people responsible for the things that they are assigned or tasks they are supposed to be taking care of. The second point is accountability. They're not the same as responsibility, but holding people accountable, holding myself in particular accountable for what I'm supposed to do. If I'm not being accountable, then I need to correct it. And sometimes that involves having some measuring sticks in my life that will make me accountable so I can at least be able to say where I'm at in the project, if it's a project that I'm working on. And I like to use the acronym called SAM, which means specific, attainable, and measurable. That's what I use as a guideline for a goal. Something has to be specific and it has to be attainable. Is it reasonable for me to attain this? And finally, how do I measure what I'm doing? How do I know that I'm really progressing or not? That's the accountability. But on the other hand, it's also to hold our subordinates or fellow workers or fellow board members, if that might be, accountable for what their task is supposed to be. The other important thing is being relational. If we don't have relationships, we really don't have much at all. You can be the brightest person on earth, but if you don't know how to build a relationship with people, your brightness, your intelligence, your high IQ really doesn't matter. If we don't know how to build upon other people and build friendship, then what are we doing? We have to build our network of people through building our relationship with others. Some of the most influential people in our country have not been people who were elected to office or appointed to high office. It's been people like Mother Teresa, who changed the whole world on our thinking about giving and sharing and helping other people. People like Mahatma Gandhi, who had an immeasurable impact on people's life and their view of life from a different lens. Martin Luther King Jr. was a great influencer who changed the world and how we treat people and how we not segregate and how we integrate and how we look at the content of a person's character and not what they look like on the outside. And the last letter of our word for R.A.R.E is an encourager. If we can't encourage people, how do we expect to be encouraged? Be the one who goes out and encourages others. Encouragement really energizes. It's like taking an energy bar and energizing yourself. But instead, you're the one that should be the tool and the mechanism that energizes other people through encouragement. And that means looking for the good quality traits in what they are doing. Maybe they're not to the same expectation we have, but if they're doing a good job, then let's compliment them. You know, there's more than one way to drive to Denver. So just to recap again, being responsible, accountable, relational, and an encourager. Dr. Blanchard writes a good book on the 1 Minute Manager. I would encourage you to pick that book up and read through it. It's a good, quick guide to leading people. Up-and-coming supervisors or managers, impressed by their own rising stature, are tempted to think in terms of important jobs and unimportant jobs, important people and unimportant people. The truth of the matter is that there are no unimportant jobs and no unimportant people. If we can keep that in perspective, it'll make a world of difference. If a job weren't important, it wouldn't exist. Someone has to do it, and if it isn't done well, the company suffers. And that's where this encouragement comes from. I'm going to give you 10 things to remember. Number 1, the value of time, your time and their time. Number 2, the success of perseverance. Number 3, the pleasure of working. Number 4, the dignity of simplicity. I've always told our staff and other people that simplicity equals transparency. Keep things simple. Number 5, the worth of character. You know, your character is what you are when nobody's looking. I'm sure you've heard this phrase before. Number 6, the power of kindness. It is powerful. Think about what I was talking about, the other 3 leaders who had a great influence in our world. They were flooded with kindness. Number 7, the obligation of duty. Number 8, the influence of example. Be the living example, not just the dictator, not the one who just does assignment, but you be the influencer with your example in life. Number 9, the wisdom of economy. Doing things that is cost efficient is valuable to any organization. Number 10, the virtue of patience. And we run short on patience very easily. You raise your voice when you should reinforce your argument. And that's about the only time you should raise your voice. I like what Will Rogers said. And he said, people only learn through 2 things. One is reading, and the other is association with smarter people. Surround yourself with smarter people. You will grow. You have a great day.